Chapter 36. 5 Energies Converging to the Origin and the Changes that Followed. I descended to the ground, woke up my companions, and briefly explained the situation. It seems we are stranded, with no knowledge of our location, and so on. I led the group to a cave, lit a fire, and fed them some food. After that, I put them back to sleep and left the cave. Thud, I kicked off the air and ran towards where the fox was. Thud, how long did I wander in the air? I was able to sense the vast field of consciousness once again. A giant fox with 3 tails. This time, how far can I go? Thump, I landed on the ground. Then, I slowly approached the fox while simultaneously using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. Buzz, whir, creating a hand blade, I cut through the air, slicing through the fox's perception, and approached it slowly. Just 10 steps from the field of consciousness. That was my limit in the past life. What about now? Step. Without hesitation, I moved within 10 steps. Step, and then another step. The texture of consciousness is much clearer and more distinct than when I first reached the stage of 3 flowers gather at the summit. It's clear how to cut and navigate through it. I continued walking towards the fox's field of consciousness. 9 steps, 8 steps, 7 steps, 3 steps, 2 steps, and then the last one. Hesitating with just 1 step left, I focused my intent more intensely and took that final step into the fox's field of consciousness. Like so, I successfully entered the fox's domain of consciousness. The consciousness of a core formation demon. Finally, I smiled within the fox's consciousness. Finally, I can operate to some extent within the consciousness of a core formation being. That is, at least I can flee in front of a core formation cultivator. I continued to navigate the fox's field of consciousness using the martial arts created by Kim Young-hoon. The size of the fox's consciousness extends 30 jong, 100 m, in radius from the fox. I continued walking, closing in about 1 jong closer to the fox. The remaining distance is about 29 jong. The fox's consciousness gets much denser from here on. However, I concentrated my consciousness and gather my intent. The essence of Kim Young-hoon's enlightenment, evolved from secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, is still vivid in my mind. Its minimum entry requirement is 5 energies converging to the origin. Just as a first-rate cannot understand the world of the pinnacle and an early peak cannot understand the world of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Anyone below 5 energies cannot comprehend this martial art system. It's incomplete because it can't be properly transmitted. The end of my past life. Kim Young-hoon's words echo in my mind. But you don't need to worry. This martial art will now, I concentrate, be inherited by me. Record of surpassing cultivation in martial arts. A supreme martial arts system that only begins with 5 energies, born through all the stages from record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts to secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts. That enlightenment blooms from my fingertips. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts lets one slice through consciousness. Record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts lets one harmonize with consciousness. Record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts lets one divide consciousness. Sword gang forms in the air. The shining sword gang, moving on its own, unfolds record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts and burrows into the fox's consciousness. Since sword gang is inanimate, it doesn't cause any worry for biological reactions or other thoughts, making it much more easy to enter and only needs to cut through consciousness. The sword gang swiftly crosses another 6 jong, closing the distance to the fox T023 jong. Beyond this point, the density of the consciousness was definitely thicker, making it hard to approach. I dispersed the sword gang and organized the essence of record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. So this is what the enlightenment of surpassing cultivation and martial arts is like. A technique where I divide my consciousness, input actions, and implement it. Not just simple actions, but even thoughts and enlightenment could be input, allowing me to fully unfold my techniques. This is the essence leading to the next realm beyond 5 energies converging to the origin. The realm of using gang chi compression sphere. Until now, I wondered how Kim Young-hoon managed to intercept opponents with spheres of gang chi, but now I'm beginning to understand. If I continue to follow the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts, I will eventually reach the realm beyond 5 energies. With that hope, I cut through the fox's consciousness again and returned to the cave. The next morning, the fox came again, asking for my arm, and I simply gave it to it again. Maybe because my new arm was free of cholesterol and nicotine, the fox chewed it very deliciously, seemingly coveting the rest of me, but eventually said it would come back in 5 days and left. It seems my body has become more suited to the fox's taste after my transformation. A few days passed. Soon they arrived. Swoosh. As Sir Chang-ho stomped his foot, my arm regenerated. 3 cultivators appeared and looked around us. This time, the reaction was slightly different than before. So there are 4 with spiritual roots. The middle-aged man in a golden robe flicked his hand. As his consciousness moved, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth spontaneously writhed and enveloped me, Jaeon Myung-hoon, Oh Yun-sok, and Kang Min-hee. This is a new sight. Until now, only the same 3 were chosen, but now I was also the subject of their interest. They chatted amongst themselves, then one by one took Jaeon Myung-hoon, Kang Min-hee, Oh Yun-sok, and turned their attention to me. Not responding to my spell. No reaction to my earth and listening technique. My law view shows no reaction. Quote. Wang. I felt my consciousness tremble at their strange method of conversation, resonating with vibrations. I didn't realize until now, but with awakened consciousness, I understood their way of speaking was not through voice but by directly infusing meaning into consciousness. Well, let's see what kind of spiritual nature you have. The man in the golden robe reached out to me. Wang. Cough. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth moved on its own, compressing my entire body. At the same time, the spiritual energy forced its way into my meridians, wreaking havoc throughout. Simultaneously, I felt the consciousness of the man in the golden robe thoroughly searching my entire body. Kgh, pain as if holes were being drilled into all my meridians. But I clenched my teeth and endured the pain. After a while, the cultivator in the golden robe crudely withdrew the spiritual energy from my body and spoke. You have good endurance. But, PFF'd, the spiritual energy that had exited my body gathered in the air and split into 5 streams of energy. The attributes of the 5 elements. Seeing this, interest faded from the eyes of the cultivator in the golden robe and the others. 5 elements spiritual roots, that impure energy I feel from his body. Is he a martial artist? Ha. Judging by his expression, he seems to have been unaware of the cultivation world. Perhaps, he just lived in the mountains, unaware of his own spiritual nature, practicing martial arts. The blue-armored cultivator, Chang-ho, laughed heartily. You seem to be unaware of the cultivation world. For spiritual nature or spiritual roots of cultivators, the fewer attributes they have, the faster the cultivation speed. Conversely, the more attributes, the slower the cultivation progress. That is why a single attribute spiritual nature is called heavenly spiritual nature. 2 or 3 attributes are called true spiritual nature. 4 or 5 attributes are called mixed spiritual nature, and are disdained. Quote. Ha, but don't worry too much. If cultivation was solely determined by natural talent, those with 5 elements spiritual roots like you would have all hanged themselves by now. Cultivation is not just about talent, but also understanding of techniques and realms, and overall mental capacity is important. Persistence, patience, and willpower also play a significant part. From what I've seen, you have terrible talent and I'm not sure about your mental capacity, but you passed that nasty golden robe guy's brutal spiritual nature test without screaming, so your endurance and willpower seem excellent. PFF'd. Sir Chang-ho laughed heartily and flicked a small cluster of light towards me. The cluster of light merged into the back of my hand, transforming into a small mark. At the farthest reaches of my family's extended lineage, there is a cultivator clan established by those guys. They're too weak and overall frail to be taken to the Ascension Gate this time. Still, this might be of help to you. It's a recommendation letter for an external member of the family. They're in a country of mortals called Biokra, and they use the surname Cheongman, so you should head to the Cheongman clan. After finishing his words, Sir Chang-ho and the other 2 cultivators turned into clusters of light and vanished into the sky. Quote. I quietly greeted Sir Chang-ho while looking at the small mark imprinted on my hand. Hey, Deputy Manager CO. What exactly did they say? Quote. I'm not quite sure myself. I shook my head, pretending not to know, and another day passed. Just like before, a storm blew. I lay in the cave, nursing Deputy Manager Ohai Seo, who was groaning in pain, and observed her. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is moving around her. I hadn't known before, but now, with awakened consciousness, I could tell. The vast spiritual power of the sky was swirling around her. Sometime later, Sea Dragon King Seo Whale appeared, took her away, and soon after, Manager Kim Yeon awoke her powers. Goo. This is. Only now, with awakened consciousness, could I vaguely see the reality of Manager Kim Yeon's abilities. Incredible. This is a human's consciousness. Countless threads of consciousness, seemingly thousands, millions, even billions, were emerging around her, enveloping the space between heaven and earth. The size of these threads of consciousness seemed not to pale in comparison to those of cultivators. At the same time, I noticed her upper dantian rapidly expanding. Suffering the same side effects as me upon awakening her abilities. I let out a small exclamation at her ability and pressed some acupoints to stabilize her upper dantian a bit. Deputy Manager Seo, touching me like this, my head seems to hurt less. Quote. Manager Kim Yeon held her head and looked at me. Then, she looked in one direction. The direction where the several cultivators and the Sea Dragon King had headed. From there, a hunchback strange being was flying towards us. Whoosh. As soon as the hunchback being arrived, he looked at me and Manager Kim Yeon, flicking his finger at her. A white cluster of light flew and landed on Manager Kim Yeon's upper dantian, starting to ease the twisting effect. What's that? I had never seen such a thing in my past life. It must be something he's been using all along, but I could only see now with awakened consciousness. The hunchback old man examined Manager Kim Yeon, then turned his gaze to me. What's this? Like the previous cultivators, the hunchback's gaze was different from the previous encounters. Let's see, this bone structure, this spiritual nature, this size of consciousness. After examining me for a moment, the hunchback suddenly approached and started fiddling with my body. Shortly after, the hunchback chuckled and giggled. I see. This internal energy, this bone structure, these meridians, the size of consciousness, and especially the 5-element spiritual roots. You're the same kind as that person I saw in my youth. The hunchback revealed his teeth and giggled. You weren't born a chosen cultivator, were you? Right. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. I couldn't help but flinch at those words. None of the previous cultivators or the Sea Dragon King had noticed that fact. Or perhaps they just weren't interested. The old man chuckled and continued to grope me. I felt a bit annoyed, but seeing the size of his consciousness, I knew I couldn't oppose him and had to silently endure. Ah, your consciousness is stirring. I was right. You are a martial artist who has learned martial arts and entered the realm of cultivators. Right. Quote. How did you know? I asked in Yangguo's language so Kim Yeon and Director Kim wouldn't understand. The hunchback old man chuckled and spoke. Well, I saw someone just like you about 1600 years ago. Yes, martial artists call this realm 5 energies converging to the origin, don't they? Quote. Indeed, I expected they were beings who lived for a very long time. Such beings, having lived for so long, would surely have encountered a martial artist who had reached the realm of 5 energies at least once. That person was also considered a genius by the standards of the martial world. I met them when I was in Chi building, and they were able to compete with me to some extent. Although they eventually lost to me, it was quite an entertaining experience. After meeting them, I scoured ancient texts to see if there were any other such peculiar beings. It turns out, every few hundred years, such individuals do emerge, albeit very rarely. Their characteristics were all the same as yours. The old man touched my shoulder. Very sturdy physique, wide meridians, a martial artist's internal energy fully filling the dantian. The old man grabbed my chin, forcibly opened my mouth, and pointed at my teeth. For a moment, I felt the urge to kick him away, but knowing the potential backlash, I had no choice but to forcibly suppress my irritation. Perfectly symmetrical and clean teeth alignment. Such alignment can't naturally occur. Even cultivators born with spiritual roots don't have such teeth. Only martial artists who have reached 5 energies converging to the origin and undergone a complete transformation have such teeth. The old man let go of my chin and touched my consciousness domain with his own, speaking. And the consciousness of a typical 3rd or 4th star chi refining. To think a martial artist without a speck of spiritual power would have such consciousness. Impossible. Such an enlarged consciousness is only seen in martial artists who have awakened their consciousness at 5 energies converging to the origin. Most importantly, your 5-element spiritual roots. He then grabbed my wrist, sending energy through it like checking the pulse. Martial artists, when reaching 5 energies converging to the origin, evenly draw the spiritual energy of the 5 elements from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to prevent imbalance in the upper dantian during their transformation. Thanks to this, martial artists at 5 energies converging to the origin have much more evenly distributed spiritual energy in their bodies compared to ordinary cultivators with 5 elements roots. These are the proof that you are not an ordinary cultivator with 5 elements spiritual roots but a martial artist at 5 energies converging to the origin. The hunchback chuckled and released his hand from me. Such facts are unknown unless you're as scholarly and wise as I am, having lived a long life. It feels like meeting an old friend from my youth, so I ended up talking a bit too much. It seemed he momentarily overlapped me with the martial artist he met 1600 years ago. The hunchback old man smirked while looking at the mark on my hand. Seeing the mark on your hand, it seems that Chong Ho, that kind soul, gave you a recommendation, right? Ha ha ha, what a foolish and stupid fellow. A martial artist who reached 5 energies converging to the origin would be perfect for inheriting the body refinement technique he practices. Just being at 5 energies converging to the origin guarantees basic combat power. To recommend such a person to a lowly clan in the lower realms, that foolish fellow made another mistake. He chuckled amusingly and asked me a question. I have a question for you. What is the primary martial art you practiced? Swordsmanship. Oh, good. Swords are great. The friend I met used a spear mainly, but they also practiced swordsmanship. Most martial artists learn the sword anyway. Ah, but that's not the important part. Regarding you, he looked at me with a wicked smile. Can you swear never to wield a sword for the rest of your life? If you make such a vow, I'll personally take you as my disciple. Never to wield a sword. Contemplation was brief. No, it would be more accurate to say there never was contemplation. Thank you for the offer, but I cannot let go of the sword. Even though if you become my disciple, you will get the opportunity to ascend beyond the ascension gate, directly to the higher realms. I may be ignorant of what that opportunity entails, but I cannot give up the martial arts I have practiced all my life. If you become my disciple, you can live for hundreds of years more. And yet, you can't give up the martial arts you've only practiced for a few decades. Just a few decades. I let out a small, bitter smile. Not just a few decades, nor was it insignificant. My past lives. Yes, martial arts are my past lives. I apologize, but even if I live a short life and die young, I cannot let go of the sword entrusted to my hand. After examining me for a while, the hunchback old man let out a wry laugh. It seems boring. That person 1600 years ago said the same. Their consciousness was barely at the 4th star of chi refining, but they could launch attacks beyond the peak of chi refining. It was fascinating, so I tried to take them as my disciple, but they said the same as you. His expression seemed somewhat regretful. Fine, if you refuse to be my disciple, so be it. Just so you know, I have a bad temper, so I won't particularly recommend. You like Chong Ho, it's just that our paths didn't cross. Now, get lost. Whoosh. The old man extended his hand, and space behind him split open, emitting a dark void. The same progression as before. My body and Kim Young-hoon began to be sucked into the spatial rift. Well, I'm not pleased that you refused to be my disciple. But I respect your spirit, so I'll give you a gift. PFF'd. A white cluster of light burst from the fingertips of the hunchbackle old man. The cluster of light seeped into my head as it was drawn into the spatial rift, and something seemed to imprint in my mind. Like always, I fell through the spatial rift. The difference from past lives was that the last thing I saw beyond the rift was not Manager Kim reaching out to us, but the hunchback old man waving. Whoosh. The wind blows. It's cold. Everything around is utterly blue. Quote. Where is this? I suddenly realized I was descending at high speed. Quote. Exclamation mark. This is crazy. I was startled and came to my senses. Falling. From the sky. Looking around, Kim Young-hoon was also far away, falling with me. I quickly deployed void stepping and caught Kim Young-hoon, pressing his sleep acupoint to keep him unconscious, then used void stepping to reduce our falling speed. After falling for a while, I stepped through the air and safely landed on the ground. If I hadn't come to my senses, I would have unknowingly transitioned to the next life. It's chilling. No matter how random, I didn't expect to fall from the sky. I wiped the cold sweat and looked around. First of all, this place is. After observing the terrain by leaping through the sky with void steps, I figured out roughly where I was. The west of Lianshan City. Lianshan City, the city where I first fell. After several regressions, I had fallen again near this place. First, let's see what the hunchback old man gave me. I closed my eyes and began to read the laws imprinted in my head by the hunchback old man. Chapter 37, Cultivator 1. Wung Wung. In my mind, a volume's worth of mystical runes floated gently. I examined these runes, gradually understanding their content. The name of the method was Hidden Consciousness Technique, a mystic art that allows one to conceal one's divine consciousness to appear at a lower realm. It could be executed solely through the manipulation of consciousness, without the need for spiritual power. The basic principle of hidden consciousness technique involved compressing one's consciousness and pushing it into the upper dantian. This temporarily reduces the size of the consciousness but increases its density and clarity for a period, potentially accelerating the practice of cultivation methods. Due to dealing with intent, it has some commonalities with record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. I carefully read through all the mystical runes left by the hunched old man. At the very end of these runes, I found a message left by him. As a martial artist who has reached the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, your consciousness is larger than that of other cultivators. However, don't be arrogant just because you have mediocre 5-element spiritual roots. Just conceal your superiority and focus on your practice. Showing off an ambiguous talent will only attract jealousy from those who lack even that. Thank you for your valuable gift. I quietly expressed my gratitude to the hunchback old man and placed Kim Young-hoon aside for a moment. Then, I recalled a bandit group nearby. They were called the Tuho Gang. I had a particular memory involving them. Before experiencing regression in my first life, when famine struck the village I lived in, the Tuho Gang raided and looted everything from our impoverished village. Bang, bang, I kicked off the ground and rushed towards their base near Lianshan City. I was more familiar with the geography around Lianshan City than any other place in Yangguo. Arriving at the cave where the Tuho Gang is based, I let out a wry laugh at the familiar stench. The smell of alcohol, rotten vegetables, dried semen, rusty weapons, sweat and dirt. Yes, the collective scent of poverty, ignorance, and violence. I was all too familiar with these scents. Memories of my first life came flooding back. Come out, everyone, I spoke softly, yet clearly, into the depth of the cave where the Tuho Gang resided. Hiccup, hiccup, a drunken member of the Tuho Gang, his face flushed from daytime drinking, stumbled towards me with a flexible sword in hand. What the hell are you, fuck? Ha ha ha, his stupid and pathetic appearance only made me laugh. When I was in the early peak in the 4th cycle, I annihilated the Chicken Waterway Fort within a moment, and even they were more organized and skilled than these fools. Truly, lowly and pathetic robbers. That was the Tuho Gang. I had memories of bowing down at their feet, offering everything I had, begging for my life. You little shit, you dare come to our great Tuho Gang. Life must have been hard, right? What? In your next life, may you have better chances. Thud, no need for a sword, not even a hand technique. I didn't even need to make a fist. I simply extended my finger and flicked the drunken Tuho gangster's forehead. Using a simple technique to send a shockwave through his brain, he immediately fell over, foam bubbling from his mouth. There would have been no pain. Entering the foul-smelling cave, I reminisced about my first life. The Tuho Gang was vicious. But ironically, most of them were originally peasants. Driven to desperation with land taken by landlords, they left their homes and became bandits. Perhaps I would have been among them if I had been a bit weaker. They were another possibility of my miserable first life. Thud, thud, I touched the heads of each person I encountered, shaking their brains and instantly killing them. They were pitiable, but they were definitely criminals. Going deeper into the cave, I found kidnapped people and women lying around, half naked. I pressed their sleep acupoints and quietly killed the Tuho gangsters. After walking through the cave for a while, I reached its deepest area. There, a bearded giant was guzzling liquor. He was the leader of the Tuho Gang. For what reason caused you to operate such a bandit group? The giant, blowing on a liquor bottle, looked at me with dull eyes. He was someone I knew. In my first life, he was the one who led the attack and burned down my village. But now, seeing him, he was at best a second-rate martial artist. Is there usually a special reason? Life is painful, so I thought maybe stealing happiness from others would make it better. So, did life get any better for you? Haha, can't you see? Do I look happy to you? Life is nothing but pain. Why is life painful? That is, it's painful because it's painful. Is any more explanation needed? Life is indeed painful. Somehow, I felt I could relate to those words. Clearly, this person and I were in different positions, under different circumstances. Yet, somehow, I could see my past self in him. The weak and insignificant me who was burdened with pain from life, unable to even find the reason for my suffering. Through the eyes of another vulnerable person, I was able to reflect on my past years. Right, life is indeed painful. HMPH, yeah, life really is. But, I looked at the leader of the Tuho gang with pity. From my experience, pain is not the end. Swoosh, I gently pushed the Tuho gang's leader. The energy I inserted with the tip of my finger caused his brain to burst, and he breathed his last. He must have gone peacefully. I gathered a few silver coins and money from the gang's residence and left. Stepping out, I bathed in the sunlight outside the cave, freeing myself from the nightmare that tormented me in my earlier life. With the silver coins, I went to Lianshan City, made identity plaques for myself and Kim Young-hoon, and bought clothes. Then, I raided the unorthodox factions within the city and took them all down. Selling the gold and properties I acquired from them, I bought a decent manor and devoted myself to educating Kim Young-hoon. Around a month later, Kim Young-hoon, following my teachings, easily reached the state of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Whoosh, 3 chi flowers blossomed in the air and then entered back into Kim Young-hoon. Shortly after, his eyes shone with enlightenment, and he experimented with his new senses, trying out various techniques. Then, his intent connected with my consciousness. Quote ... exclamation mark. Wait, hold on, by the way, Seo Eun-yun. That consciousness of yours, what is it exactly? He gazed at me, fascinated by the domain of consciousness surrounding me. I smiled and drew a saber in the training ground, adopting a primary saber stance. Rapidly, I demonstrated the severing vein saber method. Severing vein saber method, first move, mountain force. Holding the saber, I struck both upper and lower positions simultaneously. Severing vein saber method, second move, mountain spirit. Spinning and slashing in all directions, I created a defense that no one could penetrate. Severing vein saber method, third move, mountain presence. I unleashed continuous saber energy, mimicking the overlapping mountains. Severing vein saber method, fourth move, mountain wind. With invisible speed, I disrupted the opposite's flow with my thrust. Severing vein saber method, fifth move, mountain unfolding. More ferocious than the basic moves, the saber danced wildly in all directions. Severing vein saber method, sixth move, mountain bird. With light footwork, I swung the saber so fast it was invisible, making my movements unstoppable. Severing vein saber method, seventh move, mountain echo. The sound of the saber resonated, vibrating rapidly to crush everything it touched. Severing vein saber method, eighth move, mountain scream. The energy from the saber burst forth like waves, similar to mountain echo. Severing vein saber method, ninth move, middle mountain. The saber energy dug into the ground, leaving a powerful mark affecting its surroundings. Severing vein saber method, 10th move, dragon's mound. Like a dragon ascending from a hill, the saber's tip thrashed wildly. Severing vein saber method, 11th move, white peak. The ascended dragon's head glowed white, piercing through clouds. I grasped the saber and split it into 10 paths. Severing vein saber method, 12th move, great trunk. The 10 paths of saber energy merged into one, transforming into a powerful strike capable of slicing through millennium-old rocks. Severing vein saber method, 13th move, surpassing mountains. Similar to transcending peaks but several times faster, it sliced through the air. Severing vein saber method, 14th move, returning home. Beyond the slash, I released dozens of saber energies, dividing the attack. Severing vein saber method, 15th move, saber. Tomb. I poured all techniques from 1st to 14th moves into a single strike. Severing vein saber method, 16th move, endless mountains beyond mountains. Finally, the 17th move. Boom. I unleashed all 17 moves of severing vein saber method. The 16th and 17th moves of Severing Vein were identical to the 23rd and 24th moves of Severing Mountain. Moreover, the Severing Vein saber method was fundamentally quite similar to the Severing Mountain swordsmanship. Since they originated from the same root, there was nothing strange about it. I handed my saber to Kim Young-hoon, who was staring blankly at it, and said, "You saw it just now, didn't you?" Quote ... Yes, I did. What I had just demonstrated was not a mere saber method. I mixed in the enlightenment of 5 energies converging to the origin, showing thousands of threads of intent within the saber method. Perhaps, if he continues to explore the essence of the severing vein saber method he just witnessed, he would eventually reach the realm of 5 energies. You are truly a genius. How can you master such a high level of martial arts? He exclaimed in admiration, and I gave a bitter smile. A genius. I am not a genius. Like our other colleagues at the company, I just awakened a slightly unusual ability. With that ability, I could immediately reach the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, but beyond that is impossible. I made sure he didn't misunderstand, but his brief remark stayed in my mind for a long time. Genius. A single word that summed up all my past lives. But I couldn't deny it. In this world, there are many who haven't even had the chance to experience my past lives' opportunities. Instead of arguing against being a genius, I pointed out the flaws in Kim Young-hoon's martial arts, taught him literacy and speech, and instructed him in martial arts. 3 months later, Kim Young-hoon mastered literacy and speech and was getting accustomed to martial arts. I left the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts in the manor and told him to read it when he reaches 5 energies converging to the origin, then left the manor. In this life, I might not have a significant connection with him. I left Kim Young-hoon and headed for Seokyeong City. Having infiltrated Seokyeong City, I quickly invaded the Imperial Palace using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and surpassing cultivation and martial arts. Then, swoosh, using the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, I cut through the consciousness and silently beheaded the Emperor Mok Lee-young. At this time, it seems that the shadow guards had not been established yet, as the only people guarding Mok Lee-young were the palace guards. Holding Mok Lee-young's head, I cut through invisible spells and barriers with my eyes, and safely escaped the Imperial Palace. Having escaped, I walked for days and nights until I entered a familiar terrain. The territory of the Jin clan. Wu Wang. I had not noticed before, but now I could clearly see the energy of the barrier spread across the Jin clan's territory. It seems like a benefit of awakening my consciousness and being able to see the energy of heaven and earth. The Jin clan's barrier glowed faintly under the moonlight. This shouldn't be difficult. I easily cut through a gap in the Jin clan's barrier and secretly entered their territory. Although it was the Jin clan's territory, it was mostly occupied by chi refining cultivators. Most of these cultivators had no access to formation methods. That's probably why the barrier wasn't particularly strong. I erased my presence using the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and headed to the familiar training ground. Next to the training ground, in the group lodging, many breaths and intents were flowing out from there. Thud, thud, I slowly entered the lodging. The smell of sweat was strong. Suddenly, I felt something welling up in my chest as I saw this scene. My disciples. No, the children who were my disciples in a past timeline. But I knew, these children no longer remembered me. The children I remembered were trained by me, developed martial arts with me, and grew up with me. Yes, even though these children are the same beings as the ones I know. They were not the same individuals. The disciples that only I know, I would never see again. Are you suffering even in your sleep? I looked at the sleeping children's intents and smiled bitterly. It seems they were having nightmares of their relatives being killed by Mok Lee clan cultivators. Most of their intents were emitting dark light. For these children, life was nothing but pain. These children are certainly not my disciples. But still, I can't just ignore you. Having lived, I knew that pain was not the end. Gently, I placed Mok Lee-young's head in the middle of the training ground. Then, looking back at the sleeping children, I murmured softly. Live, even if life is painful, it's not all there is to it. Discovering something beyond suffering makes life truly valuable and worth living. Please, live. After giving a final smile to my disciples, I went to the back of the Jin clan's territory to a warehouse. The warehouse was enveloped in a sinister aura. I opened the door of the warehouse. Inside, there were hundreds of crystal beads, each containing a resentful spirit. Sheik, I drew my sword from its sheath. May you, the deceased, shed your resentment and rest in peace. Flash, the sword gang shining from my sword scattered in all directions, embedding into the crystal beads. Hundreds of crystal beads shattered at once, and the spirits began to escape. Pop, pop, the spirits that escaped from the beads soon forgot their resentment and turned into bright lights, ascending to the sky. The sight of countless spirits rising to the sky and then disappearing was both poignant and beautiful. Watching the scene for a moment, I stepped out of the warehouse and kicked into the air. It seemed I had touched some inner spells, as the surrounding spells were activated, but I cut through the energy knots and quickly escaped the encirclement of the formation. I hurriedly left the Jin clan's territory and said goodbye to my disciples in my heart. Farewell. May you live a slightly better life in this lifetime. I headed towards the border of Yangguo. Beyond the border, in Biokra country, I plan to find the Cheongmin clan that resides there. Go to the Cheongmin clan. To learn the path of cultivation. Chapter 38. Cultivator 2. Biokra is a nation located to the southeast of Yangguo, bordering Yangguo and situated on the Silk Road that lies across the heaven-treading desert. Due to its strategic location on the Silk Road connecting distant countries beyond the desert, the wealth of Biokra was unimaginably immense. Silk and glassware were commonplace throughout the area. Merchants riding camels and horses sold tobacco brought from countries across the desert. Herbs and fruits I had never seen before roamed the markets. It's still a bustling place. I thought to myself, looking at the surroundings that had not changed at all since my last visit. This is the place I had come to with young Hung Nim, who had fallen into listlessness before establishing the Palace of Martial Extremity. During the second regression, I had learned some of the Biokra language back then, but since it had been so long, the words weren't familiar. I should relearn Biokra language for a few months first. Whether I go to Cheongmin clan or not, I need to be able to speak the language to inquire around. Fortunately, there were many merchants near the border of Biokra who spoke Yangguo. 7 months later, I spent 7 months working at a pharmacy that mainly dealt with medicine, improving my fluency. I left the pharmacy owner, who was pleading with me to continue working, and ventured deeper into Biokra. Though I hadn't visited often, there were places I was familiar with since the time after forming the Palace of Marital Extremity. Similar to Yangguo where cultivators did not come forward openly, finding the Cheongmin clan in Biokra was difficult. However, I traveled around the country, seeking out strange landscapes and areas with peculiar rumors. After such searching, I finally found a territory that seemed to be that of a cultivator clan. Phew, is this it? With my eyes, having reached the realm of 5 energies converging to the origin and seeing the energy of heaven and earth, I saw a barrier made of spiritual energy encircling an entire valley. I've found it, the territory of a cultivator clan. But I couldn't yet tell if this territory was that of the Cheongmin clan. Even in Yangguo, the Jin and Mokli clan had roots spread everywhere. Biokra likely has more than 2 cultivator clans, so I had to keep that in mind. I spent several days and nights in front of the barrier, waiting for someone to come out from inside. It was about 10 days into the wait. Finally, someone's coming out. A man in blue robes walked out of the barrier. Blue robes. Mokli clan cultivators usually wore blue long robes. I was a bit wary of the man due to that memory, but I approached him without showing it. "Brother, how are you?" How are you?" He received my greeting without showing any reaction upon seeing me. It's quite a surprise to see a fellow brother appear out of nowhere. Ha ha ha, if you were immortal, I would have immediately eliminated you for discovering the territory of a cultivator clan, but fortunately, you are also a cultivator. Ha ha. Perhaps due to the consciousness I had obtained after ascending to 5 energies, or maybe because of the 5-element spiritual roots I had acquired, the man in blue robes approached me without hesitation and laughed heartily. "By the way, are you also heading in the direction of the border, brother? I'm planning to attend the Spiritual Path Conference held this month. It seems you are also going that way, aren't you?" Spiritual Path Conference. Brother, I'm sorry, but I'm not well informed. Could you tell me what that is? You don't know about the Spiritual Path Conference? The man in blue robes looked at me as if I were a country bumpkin. You came from some remote place to train, fellow Taoist. You don't know about the greatest exchange meeting held at the border between Yangguo and Biokra, occurring every 2 years. It's a meeting where Qi refining cultivators like us exchange numerous cultivation items, spiritual medicine, magic tools, techniques, and talismans. I have been so focused on training in the mountains that I am ignorant of worldly matters. I would appreciate it if you, brother, who are well versed in such matters, could enlighten me a bit. You really do not know even the basic knowledge, fellow Taoist. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I buoyed his mood and gradually extracted information from him. The man's name was Byuk Moon. He said he was from the Byuk clan of Biokra, of one of the 3 great immortal clans, Cheongmin clan, Byuk clan, and Gongmyo clan. Well, I am a descendant of the Byuk clan, but I'm more like a distant relative. That's why I hardly receive any support for cultivation, and I haven't had proper teachings. I've remained at only the early 4th star of chi refining. I've understood the Bing true formula, but to advance further. Ha ha ha, but you're still better off than cultivators like me without a proper clan. I might be better off than loose cultivators without a clan like you. But I still have my troubles. Some elders treat me like a pest that only consumes training resources. I played along with Byuk Moon's conversation, and when he started talking about true formulas and detailed cultivation knowledge, I quickly changed the subject to extract various information. Apparently, cultivators like me who train alone without being part of a clan are called loose cultivators. Such loose cultivators hide behind noble clans or powerful families of mortals, receiving support from them and getting supplies of spiritual herbs and elixirs needed for their cultivation. Or they would subcontract work from cultivator clans and help them in exchange for compensation. It seems that the chi refining 1st star cultivators I saw operating in secret in Yangguo belong to this category. I also learned about the basic structure of cultivator clans. The direct lineage of the clan, the main family. Then the branches that extended from the main family. And the external members who work together with these branches. Up to here, they are basically treated as cultivator clans. Below this are subcontracted loose cultivators, who take subcontracting work from the branches or external members and lead mortals. And then the imperial ancestors of a country, who operate the state along with these subcontracted loose cultivators. They are treated almost like mortals. Royalty receives a lot of cultivation resources and generally has superior skills, but they are treated as such because they are heavily involved with mortals. Then there are the loose cultivators who have no relation to cultivator clans. They are not greatly recognized by cultivator clans and are practically treated like mortals. They don't receive systematic teachings and often don't go beyond chi refining 1st star, so most cultivator clans typically ignore them. Of course, a Taoist like you, judging by the size of your consciousness, seems to be around chi refining 3rd or 4th star. Loose cultivators like you are an exception. With your level, you could easily join any cultivator clan as a subcontractor. Haha, thank you for the compliment. I should also talk about the cultivation sects. In fact, until a few decades ago, there was a concept called cultivation sects in the world. Several cultivator clans came together to form cultivation sects, gathering disciples with good qualities from the entire continent and enjoying their prominence. But for some reason, one day they stopped accepting disciples and disappeared like the wind. The elders of the clan seem to know the reason, but they don't tell distant relatives like me. Haha, quote. It seems that the cultivation sects, a faction larger than cultivator clans, disappeared suddenly because more than 99% of them ascended through the ascension path Dangshuanyang to the ascension gate. Byuk Moon just wouldn't stop talking, and my ears were almost hurting. But since every piece of information he spouted was necessary for me, I just listened without saying a word. Being unable to speak freely within the clan due to the atmosphere that one must cultivate, Byuk Moon, having found someone like me who listened well, chattered endlessly like a fish in water. I'll have to part ways once we get to the Spiritual Path Conference. As grateful as I was for Byuk Moon's incessant talking, it was also a bit headache-inducing. By the way, regarding the realm of cultivators. Is the realm of cultivators limited to the chi building stage? Most clan heads of cultivator clans are known to be at the chi building stage. Of course, I knew there were higher realms. But pretending to be an ignorant loose cultivator, I probed, and Byuk Moon, seizing the chance to show off his knowledge, started talking with shining eyes. Oh dear, it seems that there are too many things fellow Taoist is ignorant of. Cultivators essentially practice to ascend to the heavens and become immortals and achieve eternal life. These cultivators are primarily divided into 3 major realms, known as the 3 boundaries of cultivation. The Great Boundary is where one reaches the state of an immortal. The Middle Boundary is close to becoming an immortal. And the Minor Boundary is the beginning of transcending the mortal path. The 6 stages of the Minor Boundary: Chi gathering, Chi refining, Chi building, core formation, nascent soul, and heavenly being. The 5 stages of the Middle Boundary: 4-axis integration, star shattering, sacred vessel, and entering nirvana. The Great Boundary is the stage of true immortals. I don't know much about it myself. Anyway, these are the higher cultivation stages. Chi gathering, isn't chi refining the lowest realm? But asking about this could reveal my identity, so I just nodded along in agreement. Also, it is said that when a cultivator of the minor boundary reaches the middle boundary, they ascend to a higher world, different from the world we live in. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's just a legend. To me, everything from the middle boundary seems like a legend or myth, and I believe the state of heavenly being in the minor boundary is the end of cultivation. It's just that myths get distorted over time, leading to exaggerated realms like the middle boundary and such. Ha ha ha, an exaggerated realm, indeed. But I had no choice but to believe that the boundaries beyond the heavenly being stage actually exist. The cultivators who took my colleagues must have been at the level of heavenly being or higher. Their desperation to ascend to the higher realm must be because there are stages beyond the heavenly being. By the way, we're almost at Lingshu Mountain, where the Spirit Path Conference is held. What are you planning to buy at the conference? To buy, I've brought about 120 spirit stones to purchase good elixirs at the conference. For a chi refining cultivator like me, it's a huge expense. Spirit stones. I wanted to ask about spirit stones. But I heard that spirit stones are treated as currency among cultivators, and not knowing this might make me suspicious, so I kept quiet. The next day, we arrived at the foot of Lingshu Mountain, located at the border between Yangguo and Biokra. I felt a strange aura enveloping the entire mountain. Unlike the barriers I've seen around the cultivator clans, territories, the aura enveloping this mountain was invisible even to my enhanced vision. When I asked about it, Byuk Moon laughed heartily. You really are a rustic mountain hermit. Usually, big exchanges like this, or the main house of cultivator clans, are covered with formations far more profound than those protecting the minor territories of branch families or outsiders. They use the dragon vein itself as a power source, so it's completely integrated with the surrounding aura, making it hard to find even for cultivators with keen consciousness. So that's why I've never seen the main houses of the Jin clan and Mokli clan, despite my extensive search. Cultivators, magical techniques are indeed remarkable. Let's go to the Spirit Path Conference together. Oh, wait, since you didn't know about the conference, I suppose you don't have an invitation. An invitation? Yes. The Spirit Path Conference only issues invitations to cultivators, to prevent mortals from mingling in the cultivators' exchange meetings. But it's not a closed event, so if you pay 10 spirit stones, you can get an entrance ticket. You do have the spirit stones you brought, don't you? Spirit stones. I quickly thought about it, smiled slightly, and then spoke. Brother Byuk, actually, I plan to meet a friend outside the Spirit Path Conference. He lives near Lingshu Mountain. I'll meet him first and then we can enter the conference together. Is that so? See you later then. Byuk Moon, looking forward to entering the conference, walked towards a direction at the mountain's base. Shortly after, a voice echoed from the void. Show your invitation or buy a ticket. Here it is. Byuk Moon took out a small charm with a pattern from his pocket. The charm floated into the air, burned away, and left only the pattern which settled on the back of Byuk Moon's hand. Welcome to the Spirit Path Conference. Flash. A little while later, the scenery around seemed to distort, and then Byuk Moon's figure disappeared. I thought I could follow him in. I clicked my tongue, giving up on the plan to follow him inside. The owner of the voice seemed to have a consciousness similar to that of a late-stage chi-building cultivator, similar to Mokli Wangshan. Fortunately, traveling with Byuk Moon over the past month, I had built a decent foundation of knowledge about the cultivation world, so it wasn't a total loss. After all, the exchange meeting will end eventually. I can find a cultivator from the Cheongman clan coming out of the formation inside and show them the recommendation letter. If it was a famous exchange meeting, cultivators from the Cheongman clan would surely be there in numbers, so I decided to wait nearby. That's when it happened. Flash. The void distorted, and a group of cultivators wearing blue robes emerged from a spot at the mountain's base. About 7 of them. We acquired a lot of spirit stones at this Spirit Path Conference. Yes, surely, other clans, people also tried to disguise and buy our elixirs. They must acknowledge internally, our Mokli clan's elixir making technique is the best. There was a smell of blood. The familiar clan's insignia was engraved on their clothes. Mokli clan, the imperial family of Yangguo and the worst devilish clan. Especially this time, we brought blessing pills. It's bound to be popular. It's the great elixir that extends the life of chi refining cultivators by 8 years. When we return to our domain, we need to produce more elixirs. We have to press those who capture live mortals to bring more ingredients. The capturers have become picky lately. A branch member of Mokli clan was killed by some freak, and the Jin clan is aggressively trying to usurp the imperial throne of Yangguo, making capturing difficult. TCH, I don't know who it is, but I erased my presence using record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts and inserted my consciousness stealthily to follow them using stealth techniques. When the cultivators of Mockley clan had moved a certain distance from Lingshu Mountain, I released my stealth and approached one of the cultivators. Haha, you should have seen how much the ingredients assigned to me struggled last time. It's getting hard to procure fresh blood. So, I had to. Buzz. Wah. My sword cut off the head of the Mockley clan cultivator who had been spouting disgusting words. Quote. What? The Mockley clan cultivators, unable to grasp the situation, looked at me in panic. I don't know what's around Lingshu Mountain, so I've been holding back. I gritted my teeth, glaring at these filthy devils. It's hard to listen to such disgusting nonsense anymore. Worse than beasts. Thinking about it, even using a sword on these disgusting beings seemed like a waste. I sheathed my sword and spoke. Die, all of you. Boom. The gathered gang chi in the air shattered the body of another Mockley clan cultivator who was hastily casting a spell. Bones and blood splattered everywhere. What? How dare you do this to people of the great Mockley clan? Severing vein saber method, mountain wind. Swoosh. Gang chi flew towards the head of a cultivator who was quickly speaking, faster than the wind. Boom. The cultivator seemed to have cast a defensive spell, but my gang chi completely shattered it, crushing the cultivator's head like a watermelon. In an instant, 3 out of 7 were dead. Damn, a cultivator who looks no more than a 4th star chi refining is attacking us alone. Let's show the power of the Mockley clan. A cultivator with a 5th star chi refining level of consciousness formed a spell. A strong yin energy emanated from the leader-like figure of this group of cultivators, forming a ring of yin energy that flew towards me. Ha, anyone hit by Mockley clan's yin ring spell will see their flesh rot and eventually turn into a puddle of blood. Severing vein saber method, mountain presence. As I swung my hand upwards in a slicing motion, the yin ring was split in half, flying to both sides. Boom. The yin rings that flew behind me hit several trees, which immediately rotted. Oh, severing mountain swordsmanship, landscape painting. I spread my hands, infusing gang chi into my fingertips. Then, I danced wildly in all directions. Boom. Sword marks were engraved everywhere, and the 3 cultivators, including the one who had thrown the yin rings at me, were torn apart. I slowly walked towards the last remaining cultivator of the Mockley clan. Please, spare me. I'll give you everything I have. Do your companions' corpses have any elixirs left? Yes, they do. You must know how famous our Mockley clan is for our elixirs. Here, take them, all of it. His face pale and hands trembling, he took out a few elixirs from the corpses in his own pocket. What are the ingredients of these elixirs? This is the Qinggaoan, a skin beauty elixir made with a woman's arm, and it also has sanyo grass and dog ginseng extract. Also, and this is. After listening to the ingredients of the elixirs, I asked the last remaining person. Explain the stage of qi gathering. Qi gathering, you say? A cultivator who doesn't know, oh, my mistake. I will explain. The Mockley clan cultivator quickly explained the qi gathering stage. Those with spiritual nature must form a law-transforming dantian to receive the spiritual energy of heaven and earth before they can officially enter the qi refining stage. This period of forming the law-transforming dantian is called the qi gathering stage. In fact, this stage is so insignificant that it was not even called a stage. A few decades ago, qi refining was not 14 stars but included up to 15th star with the qi gathering stage. It's only recently that they've been separated. It feels like the martial world's Qianji hard method. Just as martial arts also have a stage of activating the dantian with the Qianji hard method before accumulating internal energy, it seems cultivators also have a stage of creating a cultivation dantian before learning official cultivation methods. It's so insignificant that it barely even qualifies as a stage. Yes, that's right. A person with a heavenly spiritual roots can completely form the law-transforming dantian in a day or two. Those who have the true spiritual roots take a month, and those with mixed spiritual roots who understand the cultivation methods well can do it in a year. But those with extremely poor talent can take 3 to 5 years. And since such dullards make up more than 80% of the cultivator population, it's a stage distinguished for such people. I see. Then, I asked the Mockley clan cultivator several questions I couldn't ask Byuk Moon to supplement my foundational knowledge of the cultivation world. After the interrogation, I pointed to the elixir boxes he had laid out on the ground. Do you have any elixirs that you concocted yourself? Yes, I do. Despite my appearance, I am a skilled alchemist, and I know over 80% of the formulas and elixir-making methods. If you spare me, which types of these elixirs have you personally consumed? I've tried them all. If you spare my life, I can tell you which elixir is suitable for you. I glared at the Mockley clan cultivator and asked one last question. Have you ever thought of anything while making elixirs? Yes, of course. I felt proud every time my skills improved while making elixirs. I see. I looked at the cultivator with a look of disgust and raised my hand. What? Why? I answered all your question. Pop. I couldn't stand to touch this brazen and filthy thing with my hand. I shot out Gangchi and burst the cultivator's head open. Not even aware of what they have done. Is their thinking completely distorted? Even if one grows up as a member of a cultivator clan, living in a world different from that of mortals. How can one act like this towards fellow humans when they themselves have human flesh? After leaving the bodies of the Mockley clan on the road, I gathered up the elixirs they had collected. Then, I found a sunny place, dug into the ground, and buried the elixirs one by one. Shortly after, several small mounds appeared in the sunny place. I buried you all like this because I couldn't find your bodies. May you find peace wherever you go. I recited a brief rite for the repose of their souls, then returned to where the bodies of the Mockley clan cultivators lay. I'll take these spirit stones of yours. Speak up if you have any complaints. As I rummaged through the cultivators' belongings, I found a pile of spirit stones. Having heard a rough estimate of the value of spirit stones from the last Mockley clan cultivator, I neatly stored the spirit stones in my possession. About 1,600 spirit stones entered my possession at once. It seems they made some money with elixirs made from grinding people. It was a valuable resource that helped in the training of cultivation methods and in the recovery of spiritual power. Then, shall I go to the Spirit Path Conference? I headed back towards Lingshu Mountain. Originally, I planned to wait for the cultivators of the Cheongman clan, but now I could just go inside and find them. I followed the direction Byuk Moon had gone, feeling the space around me distort. In the midst of losing my sense of direction, a voice echoed from all around. Show your invitation or buy a ticket. I handed over 10 spirit stones, and then a burst of light flew through the distorted scenery and landed on the back of my hand. A 10-day ticket. You must leave after 10 days. How many days does the Spirit Path Conference last? It lasts for a total of 40 days, and it has been 20 days since it started. Please give me one more 10-day ticket. 10 spirit stones. I paid 10 more spirit stones and received a ticket allowing me to stay for a total of 20 days. Welcome to the Spirit Path Conference. Flash. The scenery became even more distorted, and I found myself inside the formation. Is this the Spirit Path Conference? I stepped inside. Translator notes. We finally get some information regarding the cultivation world. Judging by the 3 realms of cultivation, it seems this story is gonna go on for quite a while, as expected of a Shanja. P.S. I'm just gonna be translating some plant names as is unless they repeatedly show up like the yellow bamboo root or are important. Chapter 39. Cultivator 3. I naturally let out a sigh of admiration as I looked around at the scenery. It was overwhelming. The exterior of the buildings and the people passing by felt similar to the bustling streets of Seokyung City, but the essence of this place was entirely different. Through my awakened 5 energies converging to the origin vision, I could see the vast flows of heaven and earth energy rippling throughout the Spirit Path Conference. The flow of heaven and earth energy enveloped the entire land, and countless tiny spell runes moved to form a barrier. Moreover, buildings were also covered in layers of inscrutable spell runes and magic. Not only people and animals, but even the weeds on the streets were imbued with spiritual energy, and the buildings themselves exuded a majestic aura. Those intense. Everywhere I looked, there were only cultivators with consciousness. After being accustomed to the markets of mortals without consciousness, being at a cultivators' exchange meeting felt strangely novel. In the markets of mortals, the place is chaotic due to countless humans unable to control their intent. However, at the cultivators' exchange, everyone tightly controlled their consciousness, making it difficult to discern their intents without close inspection. It felt spiritually much cleaner. I was momentarily taken aback by the sight, but I decided to look around and get a sense of the place. What did they sell at the cultivators' exchange meeting? While it felt spiritually different, at first glance, it didn't seem much different from a luxurious downtown area. There were street vendors selling talismans, herb sellers with unfamiliar herbs, and tamers sitting with cages of strange beasts. Except for the value of the items and currency being incomparably higher than in the markets of mortals, it seemed quite similar. A pound of jasahong, selling Xi'an spiritual plant, special large storage artifacts, only 7 left. As I passed by a stall selling fascinating spiritual herbs and restoratives, my eyes were drawn to a certain magic artifact. When the vendor selling items put his hand into a small pouch, he reached in all the way up to his shoulder. Fascinating. I unknowingly entered the store and looked at the storage magic artifacts. Excuse me, I'm just a country bumpkin, but how much can fit inside these storage artifacts? The cultivator vendor looked at me drowsily and chuckled. A hint of disdain was evident in his consciousness. The lowest performing storage artifact we sell here can hold about 1 stone, approximately 180 liters. He pointed to the small pouch as he spoke. That small thing could contain all my current belongings. Incredible. Just having that small pouch would vastly increase the types of poisons and hidden weapons I could carry. For someone who often used hidden weapons, it was a very tempting item. The shopkeeper, seemingly unimpressed by my appearance, gestured and said, "This one is 50 spirit stones. If you don't have money, don't block the shop, please move aside." How much is the most expensive one? I looked past the small storage artifacts to a more luxurious-looking one. To quickly draw out hidden weapons, that would be better. I pointed to a rosary-shaped bracelet and asked, "I like that one, I'll take it. That's 300 spirit stones." Thud. I put down the bag containing spirit stones and selected 300 stones to give to the shop owner. He looked momentarily flustered, but soon changed his expression and handed over the storage artifact with a smooth smile. "Haha, sir, you indeed have a good eye. This storage bracelet is the best for storing items. Each of the 27 beads on this bracelet can hold 3 stones volume, secured with space manipulation." I roughly listened to the explanation and purchased the storage bracelet. As I infused energy into the storage bracelet on my wrist, it shone brightly and absorbed the items I designated. Touching the bracelet, the desired item immediately appeared. "Sir, our store has other fine magic artifacts as well." He showed me other artifacts, but except for the storage artifacts, most required a considerable amount of spiritual power. With my current lack of spiritual power, most are practically useless. Moreover, even if I bought mid to low tier magic artifacts at the chi refining level, most would be weaker than my sword gang. In short, they were just expensive luxuries to me. Sorry, but I don't see anything else I need. As I coughed and was about to leave, the shop owner inquired. "Well, if that's the case, are you looking for something specific? Not just magic artifacts, but talismans, elixirs. I have good connections with merchants in the Spirit Path Conference and can introduce you to some good shops." "Ah, do you perhaps sell books here? Oh, are you looking to purchase books on cultivation methods? Well, that and just general knowledge about the world of cultivation. Is there a bookstore that sells such books?" Upon hearing my question, the owner thought for a moment, then stepped out of the store and pointed down one of the streets in the Spirit Path Conference. "If you go down that street and turn right at the 3rd crossroad, you'll find Chungnan Bookstore. They sell a variety of books, and the owner, an old man, is well known for recommending the right books to his customers." "Oh, I see. Thank you. You're welcome. If you need anything else, please visit our store again." I left the magic tool store and headed for the bookstore the owner had mentioned. Chungnan Bookstore. The bookstore looked quite ordinary from the outside, almost unnoticeable. It felt strangely out of place in the atmosphere of the Spirit Path Conference. "Is the owner here?" Cough, cough, cough. As I opened the door, dust scattered around, and I heard coughing from inside. "Ah, a customer. It's been a long time since I've had a visitor, welcome. My name is Chung Nan, the surname Eam." The person introducing himself as the owner, Mr. Eam, was an elderly man with a long beard that reached his waist. Mr. Eam's consciousness seemed to be around the level of chi refining, but for some reason, the boundaries of his consciousness were blurry and hard to discern. I could feel the multiple writing brushes he wore on his chest blurring my vision. Sensing my gaze, Mr. Eam pointed to the brushes and said, "Ah, they're low-tier magic artifacts that obscure one's cultivation level. If you buy more than 5 books from this bookstore, you get one as a free gift. Somehow, I have a feeling you'll be taking one with you." Heh, not bad. Anyway, I'd like to buy books on basic knowledge of the cultivation world, chi gathering, and the cultivation methods for chi refining cultivators. Good, I'll give you a gift in advance. Heh, Mr. Iam took off one of the brushes hanging on his chest and handed it to me, then went into the storeroom and came back with several books. Let's see, here are, Basic Knowledge of the Cultivation World, Etiquette for Cultivators, 100 Essential Facts Cultivators Should Know, on the Realms of Cultivators. 4 basic knowledge books. Then, Analysis of Qi Gathering, which interprets Qi gathering, and myriad Qi gathering methods outlining optimal Qi gathering techniques for different types of spiritual roots. 2 books on Qi gathering. And finally, a total of 13 books on basic methods for Qi refining. He stacked 19 books in front of me, handed me 6 books on Qi gathering and basic knowledge, and then spread out the 13 books on Qi refining methods. Choose whichever you like from these 13. If we start with this, Great 5 Elements World-Changing Technique. Mr. Iam laid out the basic cultivation books for me and gave a brief explanation. These are the types of books we have in Chengnan bookstore. But you should know, these basic cultivation books are all based on foundational principles. They explain the concepts of each level well, and the spiritual power is quite pure at the Qi refining stage, but they don't specialize in any particular field. For example, the basic cultivation methods of the Jin clan for Qi refining are specialized in fire and wind elements, and the basic cultivation methods of the Mokli clan are specialized in yin, water, and wind elements. These 13 books are common basic methods that can be found in many other stores, not just mine. Of course, the reason they're so widespread is that they're straightforward and have pure spiritual power. Mr. Iam, do you have any methods you'd recommend? What type of spiritual root do you have? I possess 5 elements spiritual roots. Upon hearing this, Mr. Iam rummaged through his books and presented a cultivation book titled, 5 Surpassing Paths to Cultivation. It contains 5 methods: Earth Surpassing Path, Water Surpassing Path, Fire Surpassing Path, Wood Surpassing Path, and Metal Surpassing Path, each suited to the corresponding spiritual root. Each one helps in gathering pure spiritual power, while they don't specialize, allowing you to use only the basic spells of Qi refining. If you master 2 or more of these methods, you'll benefit from a faster recovery of spiritual power. In the latter part of the cultivation book, apart from special abilities of Qi refining itself, there are some basic spells recorded, like defensive spells, telekinesis, concealment, consciousness spells, and telepathy. Then I'll take this. Since I had no knowledge of cultivation methods, I bought all the books without much thought. The total comes to 49 spirit stones. The price of these books is about the same as some common low-grade magic artifacts. Well, it makes sense since they contain cultivation methods up to the 14th star of Qi refining. I received the books from Mr. Iam, put them in my storage bracelet, and asked him a question. By the way, Mr. Iam, do you know where the cultivators of the Qianmen clan are staying during the Spirit Path conference? I believe they often stay across the street for lodging. Actually, this is my first time setting up a shop at the Spirit Path conference, so I'm not too sure. I used to wander around with my books. Oh, I see. I hope you find a good spot then. That's all right. To be honest, I opened this bookstore just for fun, not really to settle down. I find wandering around more enjoyable. Besides, I have another main occupation. That's good to hear. Thank you for the gift. Farewell. I bid farewell to Mr. Iam and left Chengnan bookstore, heading across the street as he had mentioned. On the way, I felt an odd sensation and looked back at Chengnan bookstore. Did that store owner really recommend me to a good bookstore? Mr. Iam's reaction didn't seem to match the story about being popular with many customers before. Perhaps they have some personal connections. While pondering this, I walked through the street where I could find lodging. Even though I know where to stay, the place is quite large. How am I going to find the people from the Qianmen clan? However, my concern was short-lived. The rascals from the Qianmen clan. Damn it, why are those foul-tempered people here? Look, just stay away from here so you don't get caught up in their trouble. Quote. Silently, I watched people avoiding the area and noticed a pair of man and woman walking towards my location from a distance. Both were dressed in dark black robes, exuding a strong fighting spirit as they walked. The man, especially, was a burly giant, wearing a storage artifact similar to mine on his wrist. It seems like something very unpleasant has happened. Their intent is predominantly red with anger. The man and woman from the Qianmen clan seem furious as their intent colored red with rage near their upper dantian. It was then, thunk, this is a good purchase. A man in a red robe, stepping out from between the lodgings, bumped into the giant from the Cheongmin clan. That attire, that seal, is he from the Jin clan? The man from the Jin clan, seeing the giant, nodded as if to apologize, then tried to continue on his way. At that moment, the giant from the Cheongmin clan grabbed the shoulder of the cultivator from the Jin clan. If you bump into someone, shouldn't you apologize? Huh, I did apologize, what is the problem? Are you making fun of me? What? Gah, ack. Suddenly, the giant exerted force on his grip and the cultivator from the Jin clan screamed and fell to his knees. You son of a. Click, click. Around the Jin clan cultivator, spiritual power of the fire element started to spread, and sparks began to fly off him. Will you not let go? HMPH. You bump into me and instead of apologizing, you act all high and mighty. Even if you get beaten to death, you'll have no one to blame. You son of a bitch. If you do not let go of me and kneel down right now, I'll make sure you can never use that hand again. There's trouble. I don't know about the giant's character, but the cultivators from the Jin clan are known for their fiery temper and strong pride. The woman beside the giant spoke. Aren't you aware of the Spirit Path Conference's rules? Inside this area, the use of spells above Chi refining second star for attacks is prohibited. Also, causing injury to others is forbidden. So what? You're going to use the rules of the Spirit Path Conference to stop me? I am saying, as long as you abide by attacks using spells above the limit, and inflicting injuries, rules, you can do whatever you want. One of our clan members used this to his advantage in a scuffle recently. The woman from the Cheongmin clan spoke. At this, the giant grinned and, in an instant, a bright light burst from his fist, striking the cultivator from the Jin clan squarely in the face. Boom! The fire spell the Jin clan cultivator was about to use shattered, and he was sent flying over a distance of more than a meter. Og! You bastard! How dare you injure me? Do you think you can leave the Spirit Path Conference unscathed after this? Noisy. The giant grumbled. Thump, thump. Approaching the Jin clan cultivator, the giant grabbed his collar and began to beat him with his luminous fist. Stop! This guy is breaking the rules of the Spirit Path Conference. However, no cultivator dared to intervene, as the Jin clan cultivator wasn't actually injured. I sensed a familiar energy emanating from the giant's fist. It's the same healing technique Sir Chong-ho used to fix my arm. Indeed, the giant was beating the Jin clan cultivator with a healing technique. Why isn't the Spirit Path Conference's protective barrier activating against a Chi refining second star level attack? Despite being the one getting hit, the Jin clan cultivator seemed too preoccupied to understand why the conference's rules weren't being enforced. Damn, little if you bump into someone. Thump, 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 thump. The Jin clan cultivator, trying to escape the giant's grip, kept casting spells, but the blue light emanating from the giant's hand held him firmly in place. Tisk tisk, seems like the Jin clan cultivator met his match. It seems they were only paying attention to cultivators from certain regions and not from others. He didn't know that the Cheongmin clan is infamous for their foul temper. The other cultivators didn't interfere in this bizarre fight where one was beating the other while healing them, they just watched from a distance. Most onlookers appeared to be around the Chi refining third or fourth star. The giant from the Cheongmin clan, and even the woman observing beside him, seemed to be at least Chi refining fifth star. Single quote. Sir Chong-ho, the founder, is a generous and kind person. Seems like his clan's branch family members are a bit less so. I clicked my tongue watching the Cheongmin clan giant mercilessly beat the Jin clan cultivator. Single quote. Tisk. I don't particularly like the Jin clan, but seeing someone who was once on my side in a past life being beaten like this doesn't sit well with me. I approached the giant who was still beating the nearly unconscious Jin clan cultivator. Excuse me, sir. It seems the Jin clan member has learned his lesson. Perhaps it's time to forgive him. Who are you to meddle in our affair? It does not matter who I am. Your behavior does not seem very honorable. Please, let him go now. If you don't like it, try to take this arrogant fool away from me. Let's see how strong a Chi refining third star like you is. I didn't need to use my hands. I used the essence of record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts ultimate technique, adjusting its power before shooting it at the giant. The giant clutched his head and let go of the Jin clan cultivator. I quickly went over to the latter, pressing on a point to alleviate his pain. Are you all right? Huff, hoik. Thank you, really, thank you. The Jin clan cultivator, appearing to be around Qi refining 4th to 5th star, tearfully thanked me. I do not know who you are, but if you ever come to Yangguo's Qianbic city, I will repay this favor. Use this token to contact me when you are there. I must go now. Thank you for today. After thanking me, he handed me a token and hurriedly left, fearing that the giant might rise again to strike him. How dare you harm us? The woman from the Qianmin clan glared at me, blocking the giant. I smiled and spoke. My technique is not like Qi refining spells, so I do not believe I have violated any Spirit Path Conference rules. And where exactly is the injury on that man? HMPH. You seem to have cunningly skirted the rules using some consciousness technique. You will regret picking a fight with the Qianmin clan's descendants. Blue light also emanated from the woman's hand. It was the same healing technique used to beat the Jin clan cultivator. However, I swiftly cut through her technique with a hand chop. Her hand remained intact, but the blue light was severed in midair. What? Swish. I quickly approached her, extending 2 fingers and slowly thrusted towards her. Defense. The Qianmin clan's woman, startled, hastily summoned a transparent barrier with a spell, but it shattered instantly as I released Gangqi from my fingertips. I quickly dispersed the Gangqi and pressed on a vital point on her body. Cough. The Qianmin clan's woman clutched the pressed point, groaning in pain and collapsing to the ground. You use a healing technique to beat people. I am also well versed in the human body, knowing where to strike to heal and cause pain at the same time. Shall we try it? Eek, you, hold on. Her face flushed with anger as she was about to cast a spell on me. The Qianmin clan's giant, stopping her, clutched his head and stood up. Ahem, my apologies. I did not realize you were a senior with concealed cultivation. As I wondered, he pointed to the brush at my waist and said. I did not recognize it before, but that tool blurs your cultivation level, making it hard for me to perceive. Please forgive our rudeness. He bowed deeply, asking for forgiveness. I nodded, accepting his apology. Oh, Orabeoni, formal way of referring to an older brother for a woman. That man, no, that person. Didn't you see his strike just now? He dissipated our spells with a wave of his hand and nearly knocked me unconscious with his consciousness technique. He must be at least Qi refining 7th star. That's, I apologize for my rudeness as well. Quote. I felt awkward and scratched my head. What would they do if they knew I wasn't a Qi refining 7th star, but a martial artist without any spiritual power? It seems they mistook me for a high-level cultivator disguising my cultivation with a tool. The reality is the opposite, though. Quote. By the way, do you recognize this pattern? I showed them the pattern of recommendation from Sir Chongho on the back of my hand. The giant's eyes widened. This is an external family recommendation token. It's at least from a main family elder or a public official level. We failed to recognize a distinguished person like yourself. Please forgive us for this as well. Luckily you know of it. Actually, I was looking for people from the Qianmin clan because of this. So, how do I join as an external member using this? Oh, it is simple. Come to our clan's territory, and receiving confirmation from just one elder level senior will make you an external member immediately. Haha, since it has come to this, we will escort you to our territory as soon as the Spirit Path Conference is over. Ah, thank you. I nodded to the now humble Qianmin clan siblings and decided to find lodging nearby, waiting until the end of the Spirit Path Conference. 20 days passed, and the Spirit Path Conference ended. Guided by the Qianmin clan siblings, I arrived at the Qianmin clan's territory in Biokra. Chapter 40. Cultivator 4. Upon arriving at the Qianmin clan's territory, I received an entry plaque that allowed me to access the area and went to meet a Qi building elder. Qianmin Mok, the Qi building elder, checked my recommendation in his room and said, this is a recommendation from an elder or someone higher from the main clan. It seems you were recommended by one of the seniors who recently ascended. An ascended senior? Never mind that. It's not something you need to worry about. Anyway, the authenticity of your recommendation is confirmed, so we will accept you as an external member of the clan. He then asked for my name, age, nationality, and current cultivation level. My name is Xiao Unyun, 30 years old. I was born in Lianshan city of Yangguo, and my current level. I have not yet learned any cultivation methods. You haven't learned any cultivation methods? Qianmin Mok's eyes flickered. His consciousness swept over mine. I had compressed my consciousness using the hidden consciousness technique, making it appear much smaller, roughly at the level of chi refining first star. To have chi refining first star level consciousness without learning any cultivation methods is remarkable. Is that why you were recommended? Do you know what type of spiritual root you possess? I am told it's 5 elements spiritual roots. 5 element. His eyes flickered again. Quote. Your slightly exceptional consciousness seems to be the only reason you were recommended. Never mind, it's not my place to question the decisions of the main clan elders. I'll give you an identity token that symbolizes your status as an external member. I'll also arrange your residence. Following the elder, we headed to a location within the territory. Unlike the Mokli clan or Jin clan, the Cheongman clan's territory was not established on flat land but in a rugged mountainous area. Thus, the residences of the clan members are more like caves carved into the sides of mountain ravines than actual houses. Cheongman Mok led me to one such cave and, pointing to it, said, "This will be your residence from now on. You will live here, elevate your cultivation, perform assigned duties, and accumulate contributions for the clan. Once you've amassed enough contributions, you can use them to receive support from the clan. Additionally, external members and branch families receive basic cultivation resources from the clan once a month. The more missions you complete and the higher your cultivation stage, the more resources you'll receive. Since you only have potential and lack not only spiritual energy but also a lot transforming Dantian, the basic support you'll receive will be." He rummaged in his robes and handed me a small box. Inside the box, there were tiny yellow bamboo ginseng roots, significantly smaller than the arm-sized ginseng I had dug up in Dangsaengyang. Judging by the size and appearance, these are cultivated ginseng, around 5 years old. Be content with this for now. Once you reach the chi gathering stage and ascend to chi refining, you can receive at least 1 spirit stone per month. Also, take these. I received 2 books from Cheongman Mok. One was a chi gathering cultivation manual, and the other contained the clan's rules and regulations. Make sure to read the rulebook and use the chi gathering manual to reach the chi gathering stage. Since you're now a member of the clan, you must complete at least 4 mandatory missions a month. When you want to take on a mission, come to me, and I'll assign you tasks suitable for your level. Understood. After receiving the books and bidding farewell to the elder, I entered the cave. The cave was empty, but having been homeless in several past lives, I was more than satisfied with just having a roof and walls. I first opened the chi gathering manual given by Cheongman Mok titled, Cheongman Method of Chi Gathering, and the myriad chi gathering methods I bought from Mr. Eam at the Spirit Path Conference. Soon after, I closed the Cheongman manual and set it aside. The manual seems too rudimentary for someone with 5 element spiritual roots. Compared to the Myriad Chi manual, the Cheongman method was less user-friendly and contained too many incomprehensible terms. In contrast, the Myriad Chi manual included methods suitable for each spiritual root, and detailed explanations about the chi gathering stage. The process of creating a law-transforming Dantian is as follows. First, one must activate their inherent spiritual quality, transforming their Dantian to be optimized for that quality. Afterward, by gathering yin and yang energies and circulating them within the Dantian, it becomes imbued with primordial chaos energy, making it suitable to absorb the heaven and earth energy, thereby achieving the transformation into a law-transforming Dantian. However, there was a problem. Those with heavenly spiritual roots take a day, true spiritual roots take a month, mixed spiritual roots the fast ones take a year, the slow ones take 3 to 5 years. The more elements one possesses, the exponentially longer it takes to create a law-transforming Dantian. For those with a single spiritual quality, such as heavenly spiritual roots, it was enough to activate this one quality and optimize the Dantian, then gather yin and yang energies to purify it with primordial chaos energy. This could be achieved in just 1 day. However, cultivators with more than one spiritual quality had to activate and optimize their Dantian with the energies of these qualities, ensuring that the energies of the different qualities were perfectly and evenly distributed within the Dantian. For those with dual qualities, it was a matter of precisely balancing the 2 energies 50 to 50. But starting from triple qualities, it became exceedingly difficult to balance the energies. Thus, for those with the same true spiritual roots but 3 qualities, it would take 1 to 3 months just to balance these energies. And from the 4th and 5th qualities, it was said to be the beginning of hell. Yes, one must perfectly balance the concentrations of 5 different energies, and during the evolution of the Dantian with primordial chaos energy, these concentrations must not change at all. I understood the myriad gathering method and analysis of qi gathering as I read, comprehending the stages of qi gathering. After organizing my thoughts, I came to a conclusion. No problem at all. Uniformity of energies. That issue was completely resolved when I ascended to 5 energies converging to the origin, undergoing a complete transformation. The 5 qualities within me are now perfectly balanced. I just need to activate all the qualities and infuse them into the Dantian. The notion that I must never lose focus or allow any fluctuation in the uniformity of qualities during the evolution of the Dantian with primordial energy is meaningless to me. Compared to maintaining sword energy all day long, this isn't even difficult. Moreover, using the hidden consciousness technique gifted to me by the hunchback old man, my training speed should increase significantly, so time is not a concern for me. The last remaining issue was the spiritual energy needed for training. Rumble. The 1,000 or so spirit stones brought by the Mockley clan cultivators were still there. I spread the spirit stones I had poured out from my storage bracelet all around the cave, savoring their aura. This should be enough. It seems I wouldn't have to worry about training. After estimating the energy of the spirit stones, I put them back into my storage bracelet and went to see the Cheonmin clan elder to receive my mission. Since I had to complete at least 4 missions a month, I thought it would be better to get it over with all at once and train in peace. When I arrived, the Cheonmin clan elder gave me a simple and somewhat trivial task. He said to go to a small village in the Juringsung province of Biokra to verify if someone with spiritual qualities had appeared. I teamed up with a member of the Cheonmin clan and headed to Juringsung. I had wondered where cultivators kept finding new members, and now I know. I learned something I had been curious about while carrying out the mission with a member of the Cheonmin clan. How do the cultivator clans continue to replenish their numbers over hundreds of years? Inbreeding among family members with spiritual roots would eventually lead to intensified genetic diseases, and it seemed unlikely that they would marry members of other clans they were competing with. However, it seemed that the cultivator clans tasked their branch families with missions like this one, sourcing people with spiritual qualities from all over the country. It was surprisingly easy to find people born with spiritual qualities. Almost annoyingly so. In the village, children who claimed to see ghosts, or those who continuously saw illusions, or whose minds were not entirely sound, turned out to be individuals with spiritual qualities in over 80% of the cases. It appeared that going to villages with rumors of children seeing ghosts or peculiar children was a way to find individuals with spiritual qualities. Although determining the specific type of spiritual quality requires detailed verification, at least knowing whether someone possesses spiritual qualities or not is easy to discern. Those with spiritual qualities or open spiritual channels have their consciousness protruding outwards from the upper dantian, forming a circle around their brows. Although these individuals had not learned any cultivation methods, making their consciousness only about twice the size of their heads, it is still easy to recognize, especially when compared to ordinary mortals who let out their intent in the form of threads, not consciousness. That child must be the one said to see ghosts. A member of the Cheonmin clan, who had teamed up with me and at the first star chi refining stage, pointed out a child lying under a bridge in Mayal village, Juringsung province. The child was bruised all over and seemed to be staring blankly at the flow of heaven and earth energy. He has an open spiritual channel. I observed the shape of the child's consciousness around his upper dantian, centered on his brow, and commented. The Cheonmin cultivator nodded and descended under the bridge. The beggar family under the bridge seemed flustered by the sudden approach of someone in fine clothes, murmuring and getting up from their spot. What's the name of that child? Oh, my lord, this child's name is Gusen. If he looked rudely at you, I apologize. That child, he claims to see ghosts. Just then, the child named Gusen suddenly screamed and pointed at us. Wah, monsters, monsters, wah. It seems like it is his first time seeing someone with our kind of consciousness, and his reaction was quite extreme. The face of the beggar family head contorted in anger. This damned child, speaking nonsense to important people, bring a stick. We must teach him a lesson. It's fine. Instead, are you willing to sell this child to us? We'll pay a good price. Clink. The Cheonmin member pulled out a purse full of money and handed it over. The head of the beggars looked at the purse, seemingly confused. What? Why would you want such a child? Enough. Are you selling or not? Prompted by the Cheonmin member, the head of the beggars quickly grabbed the child and brought him over. Yes, we'll sell. Haha, lucky you. You're going to wear fine clothes and eat better food. Go follow them. No, Daddy, no. They're not human. People let out thoughts like threads, but theirs are round. They must be monsters. This damned child, still babbling about ghosts and monsters. Just follow them already. The beggar boy screamed in fear upon seeing our consciousness. The Cheonman member sighed and told me, "You take the boy. I don't want to deal with this dirty kid." All right. Eventually, after being beaten a few times by his father, the boy was sold to us, and his father brandished the purse full of money with shining intent. Wah, wah, the boy cried out loud as I led him away. The Cheonman member, bothered by the noise, was about to use a spell to silence him, but I stopped him to let the boy cry his heart out. Cry. It's only fair given your situation. Unable to bear the boy's crying, the Cheonman member walked ahead quickly, increasing the distance between us, while I continued to hold the boy's hand, letting him cry. After the boy's voice became hoarse, I spoke to him in a calm voice. "Don't worry, we are not monsters. Just think of us as people like you." Sniffle, sniffle. However, the boy's consciousness was clouded with a dark blue color, the color of sadness. Quote. Will I never see my mother and father again? Well, perhaps when you grow up, you can come back to visit. Once you learn cultivation methods and grow strong enough to take on missions, you might be able to return. What do you mean? You'll understand later. Don't worry, you'll see them again. Hearing my words, the sadness in Gusen's consciousness seemed to lift slightly. I asked the Cheonman member walking ahead, "What will happen to this child?" First, he'll be taken to the clan for a talent assessment. If his talent is above true spiritual roots, he will be entrusted to external members of the clan for education. After learning the Qi gathering method, basic techniques, and rising to the level of Qi refining, he will be treated as an external member. However, if he has mixed spiritual roots, he will be given to the lower echelons of the clan. He'll study under them for a few years, go through Qi gathering, and once he reaches Qi refining, he will become part of the lower echelons. If he accumulates enough merit, he might even be promoted to an external member. What if we find someone with heavenly spiritual roots? If that happens, the main house will come personally to educate them. They will learn the main cultivation methods and then be married into the direct line of the main house, becoming a son-in-law. They will grow with the support of the main house's direct line. However, I've never encountered such a case in my life. I see. I gained a deeper understanding of how the cultivator clans replenish their ranks as he explained. I soothed the child as we returned to the Cheonman clan's territory. After a thorough examination, the child was identified as having mixed spiritual roots and was to be adopted by a lower echelon member of the clan supported by a powerful family in Biokra. His life was bound to change significantly from before. I received another mission from the Cheonman clan elder and went off to find new candidates with spiritual roots, successfully completing 3 months' worth of missions. Although it took time to travel around Biokra, this mission involved tracking down rumors to their source and verifying whether individuals had open spiritual channels. Bringing spiritual root holders back to the clan was treated as a separate mission, so I was not pressed for time. With about 3 months gained, I returned to my cave. Now, it's time to learn the Qi gathering method. After sealing the entrance of the cave with a wooden plank, I spread out 1,000 spirit stones and sat cross-legged in the center. The myriad Qi gathering method specific to those with 5 spiritual qualities, the 5 elements secret. I began to absorb the heaven and earth spiritual energy flowing around me, using the 5 elements secret, and activated the spiritual roots in my body according to the secret's instructions. 1. Remembering how the 5 elements spiritual energy harmoniously entered my body when I reached the 5 energies converging to the origin, I operated the 5 elements secrets and the 5 elements spiritual energy began to be drawn into my dantian from the surrounding spiritual energy. Other cultivators would have focused all their effort at this stage to harmonize the spiritual energy, spending years just on this. My body's spiritual energy was already perfectly balanced, so simply pouring the existing energy into the dantian resulted in a perfectly harmonious concentration. In an instant, the dantian achieved perfect harmony of 5 elements. From there, I began to optimize the dantian for the 5 elements spiritual energy according to the secret's instructions. Time passed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And on the 5th day, I finally succeeded in optimizing the dantian for all 5 elements. Now I'm halfway there. The next step was to absorb yin and yang energies, circulate it, and transform it into primordial chaos energy, evolving the dantian to receive spiritual power. Typical cultivators with 5 spiritual qualities would take months or even years to absorb heaven and earth energy at this stage, but I was different. 1. I drew spiritual energy directly from the 1,000 spirit stones around me. Kugugugugu. Clutching handfuls of spirit stones, I absorbed spiritual energy furiously. Due to being a 5 spiritual quality cultivator, the efficiency of energy absorption wasn't great, but I compensated with the sheer quantity of spirit stones. After absorbing a vast amount of spiritual energy, I divided it into yin and yang energies according to the 5 elements secret. Then, I circulated it in the dantian, mixing yin and yang energies to create primordial chaos energy. With this primordial chaos energy, I filled the dantian and began its evolution. Kugugugu. Changes started occurring in the dantian. Despite the drastic changes trying to disturb the balance of the harmonized 5 elements spiritual energy, I maintained perfect balance with firm consciousness and allowed the primordial chaos energy to work. How long did I continue to push primordial chaos energy into the dantian using the 5 elements secret? Finally, flash, light seemed to emanate from the dantian, and the primordial chaos energy no longer caused any further transformation. Instead, the dantian began to operate the primordial chaos energy on its own, refining and collecting it into pure spiritual power. Ha! I exhaled and operated the 5 elements spiritual power inside me. The 5 elements spiritual power moved at my will. Hua! As I inhaled, the heaven and earth energy naturally absorbed into me following my intent. I realized that I had achieved great success with the 5 elements secret. The implication was clear. Now, I can ascend to the chi refining stage. I opened my eyes, left the cave, and asked the mortals working in the Cheongman clan's territory about the current date. I learned that a month had passed since I started my closed-door cultivation. Since I've already completed 3 months' worth of missions, I have about 2 months left. I quickly decided. Returning to the cave, I took out the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation. With the remaining time, shall I try advancing to the first star of chi refining? Translator notes. From my understanding, spiritual energy is the basic form of energy that exists in the world. It's the heaven and earth spiritual energy. Spiritual power is when the spiritual energy is transformed by the law transforming dantian into power that can be used and manipulated by a cultivator. Spiritual power can also be translated as law power, which explains the term law transforming dantian.